Heather Mackay, who's here from Bermuda, my great sister Wendy and her husband Doug, who are here from St. John's via Florida, my nephew Jeff, who's here from St. John's, and they're good friends of the family, Dorothy and Phil Reitman, who are here from Halifax. We also have Rachel's friend Maria, who arrived on my doorstep this morning at 6:30 from Calgary. Unfortunately, I was still up, albeit in pajamas. And all the groomsmen and maids of honor and bridesmaids who are here from coast to coast, literally. Melissa from London, Hannah, of course, from New York, Jasmine from London, Heather from Bermuda, Laura from somewhere in the Caribbean. Last port, I think, was Miami. Robert Cram from Toronto, Zachary, my nephew from New York, Mark Hesketh from Toronto, Chad from Peterborough, and Chris and Jamie Sherman is from, Chris is from Vancouver and Jamie is from Thompson, and I assume that's Manitoba. Thank you all for being here and traveling so far, and I know it's, I hope that you have a wonderful evening. I also want to thank tonight Sean's parents for allowing Sean to be part of our family. I've met Brian on a number of occasions, most recently a few nights ago. Sean and he and I shared a few beers. And his mother, Esther, has become a very, very good friend of our family, especially for my wife. So welcome, and thank you very much for letting your son take good care of my daughter, or else, by the way. This is not the first time I've done this. Not making a speech, of course, but not the first time I've done this walking down the aisle. 29 years ago, I walked my twin sister Jillian down the aisle as my father had passed away. And I remember, because I was much younger then, I was, well, 11 years old, of course. But I was, 29 years ago, I remember thinking, gee, this is kind of a great moment, but I didn't experience it or appreciate it like a father would do it. But I remember being very emotional. Today, walking down the aisle, I thought I would be a lot more emotional. And I understand there were bets being taken around the room about whether or not I would break down. I am not in a Valiant Haze. I had a bit of scotch. But my daughter, in her wisdom, decided to give Daddy something. It's an embroidered handkerchief that says Daddy, May 28, 2011. And I'm not too sure she thought this is to wipe my face during dinner or because of the sniffling I would do. I want to tell you now, you've all lost your bets. I didn't shed a damn tear. 33 years ago, close to, my wife and I got married. And there were some people in the room tonight who were with us at our wedding. Dorothy and Phil, of course, my mother. And I want to thank you all because for being here again at this mitzvah. But I think what was very important 33 years ago is that I didn't remember a damn thing about the evening. And I should have. So Rachel and Sean, tonight, or next week, or next month, and certainly in 33 years from now, you may not remember a damn thing, but there was a lot more cameras in the room tonight than there were for us over years ago. I also want to thank especially my mother, Denise, who is here from St. John's. My mother is never one to miss a party. She flew here from St. John's via Bermuda. A lot of people are going to Bermuda in my family. Mommy, thank you very much. And yes, I still call her Mommy. But Mommy, thank you very much for being here. A few years ago, and I guess this is the time I should really be talking a little bit about Rachel and Sean. A few years ago, Rachel had sent me an email. And not that I'm the kind of guy that keeps all the emails for emotional reasons. I keep them for evidence, quite frankly. But Rachel had taken a sojourn, and she was traveling the world, and she was in Australia and Cambodia and Vietnam or wherever the heck she was. And we would get these phone calls, and the months would be punctuated with these phone calls. Don't worry, the bomb was nowhere near us. And we would look at TV at 4 o'clock in the morning and see that there was a bomb in Bangkok, and our next thing was, come home. But she sent me an email, and it's dated May 24th, and I believe it was February 1st, 2007. And Rachel has always been one to ask me something. Never to ask my permission, there's a difference. She would always preface her remarks with, Daddy, what do you think? And I already know that she made up her mind, and no matter what I thought, she would always say, okay, thanks for that. And she wrote me this email, and she said, I wanted to email you first to see how you feel about it. Renee, who is like my second daughter and Rachel's maid of honor, Renee gave me a nice keychain with "Go Forth and Become" engraved on it. I was thinking about how nice this would be to have this as a tattoo. Now, I'm not going to tell you whether or not Rachel actually got the tattoo, because that's between her and me and God and Sean, I guess. But the fact is, she had asked me. And I thought, but even more importantly, those words, "Go forth and become." And I think that maybe this is what your motto should be with Sean. I would like you both to go forth and become, because I know that you both will be. I also want to talk a little bit about Sean. I think a father wants to just know one thing, that his little girl, and Rachel is my little girl, would be loved and respected. And Sean does both. I have to tell you, I have a few stories about Sean. They met a number of years ago when he didn't shave. And I didn't expect it to turn to this, but I'm so happy that it did. But a few weeks ago, an incident, Rachel came home late from work, and Sean was home already after a long day of work, and he was lying on the couch. And Rachel, very untypical of her, was in a bad mood because of it. So Rachel went to the kitchen and started to cook. And she spilled the entire box of spaghetti on the floor. Well, there were words exchanged. Something along the lines of, "For God's sake, get off the couch and pick up the spaghetti." And so Sean very dutifully got on his hands and knees and picked up the spaghetti, and he spelled out, "I love you" with it. Now, if no one knew before that he was a sap, they all do now. But I think it's classic. So Sean, thank you very much for loving my little girl. Spill as much spaghetti as you want, Rachel, to make sure that he still remembers how to do it. Rachel and I have had a special bond. She came into the world early, which is one of the few times she's been early for an appointment. But she came into the world early, and I was the first person to hold her. And I know people will say this is not true, but I held her in my arms, and she looked up at me and smiled. And it's an incredible smile. So that's it. I had to tell. I knew I was going to not cry, but I did. She had this incredible smile, and she's always been my little girl. So tonight, you're a bride. Tomorrow, you're going to be a wife. And for the rest of your life, a wife. But you'll always be my little girl. So God bless you both.